Hello and welcome to CX Today. My name is Charlie, and today I'm delighted to be joined by Jonathan Baruch, founder and CEO of Local Measure. Jonathan, thanks very much for joining us. How are you doing today?
Hey Charlie, thanks for having me again.
Yeah, well, it's great to have you on the platform once again. And today we're going to be talking about email and customer service, probably one of the most under discussed topics in the contact center arena. And just to kind of double down on that point, I found some research here, which I'll pop up on the screen for everyone, that shows that email is still the second most leveraged channel for inbound customer conversations. So, Jonathan, I'll pass over to you for just your views on this. First of all, why do you think email remains so popular?
Did you say boring or popular? Both. Look, I think customers are really comfortable with sending an email, right? I mean, it's the most asynchronous form of asynchronous messaging. I mean, sometimes we get a little bit lost with all of the sexier channels and we forget that customers of all ages are really used to sending emails to family, to friends, and even to companies. I think what's interesting is some companies have like proactively hidden their email addresses just to make it even additionally harder and do things like web forms or like even worse, call you to pick up the phone to speak to them when the customer doesn't actually want to speak to you, which is more expensive and carries telephony costs and means it's kind of one to one for the agent. So I think customers like it, which means that businesses sort of have to deal with it. But most companies do it really, really badly.
Yeah, yeah, I think the web forms is a great example that many people will be able to relate to, and when they try and find an email to see one of those is very disheartening. So, kind of given that, that suggests that there's quite a few challenges that contact centers face when handling email customer contacts. Which do you kind of see contact centers struggling with most, and how can they perhaps overcome some of those challenges?
I'd say all of them. I'd say everything to do with email is typically a total mess, and it's kind of nice because the bar is so low, so we can just so fundamentally change it. I have seen everything from a very large hospitality brand that has four customer service agents dedicated to dropping and dragging emails from the main inbox into an agent's Outlook folder. Four FTEs to do dropping and dragging. And I was watching them in a contact center and I said to one of the agents, what happens if you miss the folder or you accidentally delete it? And she said to me, oh, that never happens. And the agent sitting next to her said, it happens all the time. And I think that kind of summarizes for me how most like large organizations think about email. It's typically an Outlook. It's typically very old. There's no real intelligence. There's no routing logic. It's not connected to the physical experience, the in-store experience, the telephony experience. And so it's really disjointed and kind of manual. And what that means is it really slows down the processing. It's not a great customer experience. It's a hugely expensive proposition for the company, right? You're paying four salaries for people to effectively drop and drag. So there's got to be a better way. And so, obviously, from a local measure perspective, we essentially launched and reimagined what email should look like in the modern world. And we fully understand that over time that might move to other asynchronous channels. And we're geared for that with messaging and WhatsApp and Facebook and WeChat and Line and all the other channels we support. But for the here and now, customers are still using email, so businesses have to figure it out.
Mm. Yeah, and actually, it'd be great to kind of dive even deeper into. I mean, the example that you gave there is quite amazing with the four agents just dragging and dropping emails. But how do you suggest that contact centers can better support kind of agents in delivering inbound and outbound customer service?
So you have to like map through where are the different use cases that email makes sense. So
Mm.
clearly we've discussed like inbound from a customer for an inquiry, things like applications and forms typically will come back via email. An agent might be on the phone but need a pivot to an email channel to kind of send a follow up or to send a form or to send some instructions. So there's sort of an outbound element as well. And then clearly there's a marketing use case where you're sending kind of lots of outbound emails for tickets or transactions or receipts. I mean, the thing that irritates me the most is when I get an email and it says no reply at company. I mean, what a terrible customer experience, right? You're sending something to the customer, probably they've been waiting for an order confirmation or an update or an airline ticket, and you're saying, stop, don't respond to us. So I think the first thing is like start by mapping out all of those touch points where kind of email makes sense. And one by one, like start attacking them like with a common platform and treat it like voice or treat it like asynchronous messaging as like a dedicated like first party channel. So on the form example, like why are you having agents copying and pasting data out of a handwritten form? I mean, there is now OCR technology that can strip out the context of the form with generative AI that can pre-fill the form, can present it to the agent, and the agent can kind of verify and kind of click approve. With the outbound use case, like why don't you have the templates already preset with those brochures, with the emails pre-written? Maybe even have you have generative AI that rewrites kind of the email, and I'm giving away some of our product features. But those are some of the things that we kind of think through, like map the journey, map the use case, and then figure out what technology makes sense to kind of automate as much as possible.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's lots of really great stuff in there, particularly kind of when we look at contact centers. Typically, the most kind of forward-thinking contact centers are those that kind of really understand their demand drivers and kind of plot courses of action to kind of combat each of their most prominent, as you kind of suggested. There, and you did also highlight some of the new features, well, kind of hint at them at least within the local measure suite that help contact centers to bolster their email proposition. Could you maybe kind of share a little bit more about how you're kind of helping contact centers do exactly that?
Well, I mean, the good news for us in the technology industry is the bar is really low. As I started with, like, you've got people dropping and dragging. So there is immediate cost savings because those roles just don't need to exist. And you can redeploy those four smart people to actually answering customers rather than dropping and dragging. So things like routing based on priority, understanding the intent, interrogating the content of the subject line, doing lookups in CRM to see that Charlie is like really important. He's a high spending, high value customer. So let's bump his email to the front of the queue. Or that the reason you're emailing is about a really pressure, a time sensitive issue. So we move you to the front to a highly skilled agent. And Jonathan's email is just not important. So we can kind of move that to the back. Some of the plain vanilla use cases drive huge impact on the customer. We had a customer that was taking up to a week to respond to their customers through email because the backlogs were so high. After we implemented and went live, we got that down to intraday, so within the day. No additional headcount, just clever routing rules, understanding the intent, language detection, and making sure the email ends up with the right agent at the right time with the right skills. So, kind of all of the basics. We have that live and in market. But super excited to kind of have released a bunch of really new smart capabilities, starting with real time translation. So this month we're releasing real time translation across all of our channels, including email, meaning that an email can come in French and be translated in real time to English for an English agent in Manila, who can then respond in English and it's translated back out to French for a seamless two-way interaction. So reducing cost, increasing the ability to service customers in their preferred language, content drafting tools, the ability to actually help draft the email with some basic prompts, the ability to kind of summarize and shrink policies, some basic tools like spelling and kind of grammar and sentence construction, the ability to pre-populate forms, tasks, next actions based on the content within the email. So we've reimagined kind of what email should be in the modern world and add all of the toolings and the capabilities to make it much, much easier for the agent to kind of execute.
Mm. Yeah, I think that's really great because now with the emergence of generative AI, there are a lot of maybe use cases that were available but more expensive and less accessible. But now, kind of just by embedding them into the system, just can serve them up to customers like intent analysis, like summarization, like like pre-populating forms. Sorry, there's so much good stuff within there, and it would be great to kind of find out more about Local Measures CCAS platform. And for everybody that wants to do so, I will leave a link to the Local Measure site in the description. But for now, I think that's a great place to end today's chat. Jonathan, it was a great conversation as always. So thanks very much for joining me.
Thanks, Charlie. Is email a little bit more exciting for you now? Or are you still thinking it's as boring as when we started?
As long as we're helping to combat those web help forms, and the no
You're all
reply
in.
emails, like you said, yeah, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. Absolutely.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Well, thanks again for joining me, and thanks everybody for watching. Bye for now.